Hello everyone and welcome to Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk, quick tutorial on ICD-10 PCS coding. In today's video, I will be doing a quick breakdown of the ICD-10 PCS category or structure, and then we will go through an example on how to assign an ICD-10 PCS code. So in our ICD-10 quick review, this is actually an old presentation and I just converted it to video for mass learners. So pretty much what we're going to run through in this video is, again, we're going to present an ICD-10 code example. We'll go through the steps to code the example, such as the introduction, the index, tables, and dependencies. We'll actually touch on the ICD-10 PCS coding guidelines, and then we'll conclude this video. So here in our ICD-10 PCS coding example, we have a surgeon who performed an open thyroidectomy of the left thyroid gland lobe. So our strategy here is to determine what the PCS code is, and then just to go through the steps on how to get there. So let's proceed. So here I want to provide a little introduction on ICD-10 PCS coding. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term ICD-10, ICD-10 PCS actually represents International Classification of Diseases, the 10th revision procedure coding system, hence ICD-10 PCS. It is a replacement for ICD-9 CM Volume 3. So for those of you who are new to coding, ICD-9 was the volume that we utilized prior to the ICD-10 version. Our ICD-10 PCS is a new and more comprehensive procedural coding system developed by 3M Health Information Systems and CMS, again, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, funded the 3-year contract with 3M to develop a new coding system that would improve accuracy. And then lastly, the new procedures are being performed. Therefore, new codes were warranted and required expansion. So with our ICD-10 PCS coding guidelines, the coding guidelines have been developed to standardize, again, the ICD-10 PCS code selection. The guidelines address A, the conventions, B, medical and surgical section guidelines, as well as the C, which represents the obstetrics guidelines. All sections of the ICD-10 PCS are governed by these guidelines. And lastly, it is important to read the guidelines. Again, I'm going to repeat that. It is important to read the guidelines in order to determine the appropriate coding conventions and specific coding rules. And I want to again reiterate the importance of reading and reviewing your coding guidelines, whether it's with ICD-10 PCS, ICD-10 CM, as well as your CPT or current procedural terminology, and HIPAA's. How could I forget HIPAA's guidelines? It is very important to review your guidelines. The guidelines, they provide one instruction or further instruction on how to appropriately assign these codes. With our general principles of ICD-10 PCS, the procedure descriptions do not contain any diagnostic information. A disease or disorder is reflected in the diagnosis coding, not in the procedure coding. Explicit NOS or not otherwise specified options are not provided in ICD-10 PCS. Remember, PCS represents the procedure coding system, whereas CM represents the classification of diseases, okay? NEC, or not elsewhere classified, has limited options in ICD-10 PCS. NEC codes may need to be referenced when a new procedure is performed that has not yet been assigned a proper ICD-10 PCS code. And lastly, the procedures currently in use and being performed can be specified in the ICD-10 PCS code book with the use of a 7th character code. Now we're moving forward into the structure of ICD-10 PCS coding. So first we must know or understand that the index is the starting point when selecting a code. It's the guide to the tables, which contain the specific characters needed to formulate the code. Commonly used terms or general types of procedures are located in the index. So for example, if you were trying to convert, let's say, an appendectomy from CPT to ICD-10 PCS, then when you go to look in your index, you will look up appendectomy because that is a commonly used term or commonly performed procedure. And in our case, for our example, we're going to look up thyroidectomy in the index. Next, the index supplies the first three characters of a code. So each character position in the table has a specific meaning, and we'll go through that in the next slide. The character meanings may vary at times from section to section. So here we have our ICD-10 PCS code structure, and then again, this is pretty much standard. It also breaks down like the specific categories of what each main structure represents. If you look at the top, we have 0, which represents the medical and surgical. If we go midway down to number 6, I would say that, well, it does represent, extracorporeal or systemic therapies. And then if you go down to G, we have mental health. And then lastly, we have X, which represents new technology. Now, if you want to grab a copy of this for your personal resources, the link is below, which is at http://ICD-10data.com/ICD-10PCS/codes. So to go through our code and character designation, we're going to use again our example, which is the thyroidectomy, to break down the character designations as you see listed here. So the first character position is our section, and since the doctor has performed a thyroidectomy, we're going to go with the surgical character position. And then our second character position is the body system, and we know that thyroid has to do with the endocrine system, so we're going to go to endocrine. In our third character position, or our meaning, we're looking for the root operation, which is the objective of the procedure, such as a drainage or an MRI. And so again, in our case with the thyroidectomy, ectomy represents removal or excision, so we're going to go with removal or excision of a thyroid. And then our fourth character position has to do with the body part. Again, we're removing the thyroid gland, and we're very specific because we know it's the left lobe. So that represents our fourth character position. In our fifth character position, we're going to define the approach. How did the doctor or surgeon approach this thyroid? He's performing this via an open approach, okay? And then 6, it's nothing because it represents a device. Was there a device that was implanted or utilized in this particular procedure? A device, as it relates to PCS, has to do with a device that remains in the body after completion of a procedure, such as an IUD, a skin graft, pacemaker, or radioactive implant. So again, because we are performing a thyroidectomy, we're actually removing something from the body or the cavity. So we're not implanting or leaving anything within. So that is empty. And in our 7th placeholder, again, we have no qualifier. And so a qualifier is additional information unique to the individual procedure being performed, such as full or partial thickness, diagnostic, etc. So again, we don't have anything for character positions 6 and 7. So in that case, when we don't have anything for that, we are going to add the letter Z. We're going to add letter Z for placeholder 6, as well as letter Z for our 7th placeholder. So in ICD-10 PCS coding, the tables are used to identify groups of codes and organize them in a way to make it easy to select a code. So when selecting characters from the tables, the coder must select the character straight across in a given row. In our example, we have O for medical/surgical, We have G for endocrine system and B, excision. So this is considered our, I would say, our category or our grouper for our thyroidectomy. And then, of course, then our 4th, 5th, and 6th, and 7th placeholders, again, which is defined by the body part, our approach, the device, as well as the qualifier. So here we have an example of an ICD-10 PCS coding table. We have our first 3 digits, which is represented by the first 3 digits here, or what I would like to call our category. So we have 0 or O, excuse me, for medical and surgical, H, which represents skin and breast, and then P, which represents removal, which is also further defined as taking out or off a device from a body part. So then we move into the table, we have our other 4th through 7th placeholders or digits. So again, our character 4 represents the body part, our character 5 represents the approach, our character 6 represents the device that was used, and then the character 7 represents the qualifier. So if you look over in category 4, or for our body part, you see here they have some different anatomical sites or body parts to select from. And so depending on the body part in which you're working or you're trying to assign a code, you would select that particular letter or number, well, in this case, the letter for that particular body part. Then we would go to the approach. Again, how did the surgeon approach the cavity or the body orifice, excuse me. So yes, so did he perform this procedure externally? Was it open? Was it percutaneous? Was it via natural or artificial opening? Was it endoscopic, or was it, again, external? And then we go into character 6, the devices that were used. Did he implant a drainage device? Was there a skin graft or tissue placed? Again, were there radioactive elements implanted? Was there a tissue expander? Again, autologous tissue substitute, etc. And then were there any additional information such as additional qualifiers that were used? And so no, and so of course you would assign Z. So we're going back to our example again, where the surgeon performed an open thyroidectomy of the left thyroid gland lobe. So in our body part for character 4, we know that it is going to be thyroid gland, and then again it's broken down by left or right lobe, and we know that he's doing the left lobe, so that is represented by letter G. We know the approach is open, so that's O. Our device, there wasn't a device that was left inside the body orifice. And then our qualifier is Z because there wasn't any additional information utilized for this procedure. So based on our steps, which should include the introduction, the index, as well as the table and coding guideline review, the PCS code for the open thyroidectomy should be 0GB-G0ZZ. Do we have any questions? If not, it's pretty straightforward. It just takes a matter of time to kind of go through the steps and practice. And once you become acclimated with the process of determining how to, I would say, crosswalk or maybe initially assign an ICD-10 PCS code to your cases, it is actually easier, in my opinion, it's easier than assigning a CPT code. This concludes our segment of Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk. To learn more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Abraham Medical Coding Coach Abraham, or visit our website at www.abrahammedicalcodingcoachllc.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thank you.